Chapter 1. Life's Challenges. Standing in front of the mirror, staring at myself in my bedroom a few months before I turned 50, I started to think about how my life changed. On March 1st, 1992, at the young age of 18, just 30 days before my 19th birthday, I gave birth to my one and only biological daughter, Jasmine, who was born in Blue Island, Illinois, a suburb south of Chicago, where gardening took place every season. Beautiful landscapes of manicured lawns, purple crocus, and yellow daffodils were sprouting too soon before spring because a wave of warm weather came for a few days, but now it's cold again. At 34 weeks pregnant, my labor had to be induced because I lost fluid from around the placenta. The doctor brought me in to induce my labor. My mother, Yolanda, my rock, was there with me every step of the way. And after several hours of inducement, my OBGYN told my mother to go home and that they would call her when it would be time to return. The induction failed, and so I was taken to the operating room for an emergency C-section. An attempt was made to do an epidural, but it failed, and general anesthesia was given. I had to make a decision. Jasmine was born at 6:27 a.m. and weighed 4 pounds, 14 ounces. After the operation, I was surrounded by a support system that consisted of my mother and my Aunt Lynette, who is also my godmother. About 3 hours after having my C-section, I will never forget, my Auntie Lynette said, "Get up. Time to get out of this bed and start walking." You see, I come from a foundation of extremely strong women. My grandmother, Ruby Slaughter, set the bar high, and we all, in some shape, form, or fashion, carry characteristics of her with us as we navigate life. Miss Ruby said what she meant and meant what she said. She enjoyed life to the fullest, having no regrets. Now back to Lynette, a registered nurse and the family drill sergeant and advocate when it comes to health care. You can't lie in this bed. You've got to get up. You've got to walk around because you are going to be taking your baby girl home and she needs you. The longer you stay in bed, the harder it is to heal. So we walked. Jasmine and I stayed in the hospital for 7 days. She would only eat if I breastfed her, and so I did. I had no plans to breastfeed. I just assumed that she would have a bottle. This is when my Jasmine journey began. We quickly learned that Jasmine could not drink regular baby formula, and so via the Women, Infant, and Children's WIC formula program, we were able to obtain soy formula. The nurse came into my room while my mom and aunt sat beside my bed and said the pediatrician would be by shortly to share something with me. We could not wait to hear what the doctor had to say. I became anxious, and it started showing. Mom says we should just wait to see what the doctor has to say. Yes, we do not need to think of anything wrong until we hear from the doctor, Aunt Lynette replied. Tears started rolling down my face, and I was filled with emotional distress. This was not going to help me get better. Don't worry. You have not gotten any news, Mom encouraged. Aunt Lynette stood up and held my hand, patting it with her other hand. Everything is going to be fine. Just wait and see. I felt something inside of me that was not right. There was an uneasy feeling deep down. A mother knows when something is wrong with her child. The pediatrician finally came to see me after making his rounds with other patients. He walked over to my bed and said, "Jasmine is doing well, but we had to do a CT scan, and it identified that she has experienced some bleeding in her brain." 7 days later, when we were discharged, follow-up testing showed that the bleeding had disappeared. At the time, I lived with my mother, and let me tell you, if it wasn't for my mom, I would not have survived the first 3 months of motherhood. I read the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting, but in my opinion, having a baby is not like learning how to drive a car. In no way did it prepare me for the journey that I was about to embark on. Motherhood is full of uncertainty, and you will have to rely on your gut to make decisions. Don't get me wrong. The book was definitely informative, but the weight, WEIGHT, that I was about to endure was completely more than I ever could have imagined. Jasmine, you see, liked to wake up every 4 hours for a feeding. As a person who likes 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night, Jasmine was interrupting my flow. So Grandma Yolanda got up and made sure Jasmine was fed. This was 1992. Until this day, Jasmine does not require much sleep and still loves to eat. 1993. 12 months after Jasmine was born, Mom said, "It's time for you to move out on your own." This is where adulting began, and some mild depression started rearing its ugly head. Reluctantly, with minimal income, I got my first apartment in the basement of a friend's mother's home. This was not the best place to live, as it was a concrete basement, but it was the best that I could do at the time. During this time, as I was living on my own, Mom informed me that Jasmine was not progressing like a baby should. My mom had 2 biological children, and she knew what to look for in how a baby should be developing. I scheduled an appointment for Jasmine to see the neighborhood doctor, Dr. Pedro. I'll never forget that name because he was also the doctor that everybody took their children to in our community. In fact, my father, uncles, and aunts had also seen him as children. After examining Jasmine, Dr. Pedro said, "Well, not all kids progress at the same rate." I went to my mom to share the good news with her about how Jasmine is progressing. A few weeks later, Mom said, "Something is wrong with Jasmine. She is rolling over, but, by now, 1 year of age, she should be walking or attempting to walk." 1994. For 12 months, I lived in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and attended school in a single-parent dorm. During this time, Jasmine went to the doctor once, and I did spend time worrying about how she was progressing. But after returning home, I realized that I needed to figure out what was wrong as she was about to turn 3 and still wasn't walking. 1995. After conducting some research, I made an appointment at La Rabida Children's Hospital in Chicago in the Jackson-Andrew Park area. The hospital had a multi-specialty clinic, which consisted of clinicians from different specialties and therapists to assist with the diagnosis of children. I will never forget Jasmine's developmental pediatrician's name, Dr. Thomas Blondis. He treated me with the utmost respect, and his bedside manners were excellent. He was also quite the record keeper, didn't trust computers, but ensured that he maintained paper copies of all encounters. Dr. Blondis ordered diagnostic tests, which included blood, hearing, occupational speech, and physical therapy evaluations. The first diagnosis was that Jasmine was born with cytomegalovirus, CMV. This virus was transmitted through the birth canal. Given that I only had sex with one person, I'm pretty sure how this infection was obtained. According to the Mayo Clinic, most babies who have congenital CMV appear healthy at birth. However, some babies who have congenital CMV develop signs over time, sometimes not for months or years after birth. The most common of these late occurring signs are hearing loss and developmental delay. Jasmine was sent for a hearing test called an auditory brain response, ABR, and the results showed that Jasmine has profound to severe sensory neural hearing loss in both ears. Unfortunately, we figured that something was wrong with her hearing because Jasmine didn't respond when we called her name. Effective December 31st, 2002, in Illinois, a hearing test must be conducted at birth, but back then, they did not test for hearing. Also, at this time, Jasmine was not walking, so the physical therapist conducted an evaluation and determined that Jasmine would benefit from the ankle-foot orthotic, AFO. The purpose of the AFO is to improve stability so that Jasmine can safely walk when she was ready. At this point, Jasmine was 3 years old and being fed with a bottle with a big hole in the nipple. The team at La Rabida recommended that we enroll Jasmine in an early intervention program for children who are developmentally delayed. We decided to enroll her in Blue Cap, which at the time was a program for developmentally delayed children in Blue Island, Illinois. They had an early intervention program in place for children who were 3 to 5 years old. During the enrollment process at Blue Cap, Jasmine was given an Individualized Education Plan, IEP, which created a program for her to receive speech, occupational, and physical therapy services 3 times per week. The IEP process was very intimidating, but after a while, I realized that this planning process was important to establish goals to help her grow and develop. It was my first exposure to SMART goals. We will explore the meaning later, as I am going to challenge you to create some of your own. It also included social support services for us both, as by this time, I was falling apart. As her mother, I was her advocate and her voice, so that others would know what her needs would be. This was a difficult time because I was having a hard time finding my voice. In Jasmine's younger years, despite her disabilities, she was always happy and could often be heard laughing for no apparent reason. It was almost like God was speaking to her. We never knew what she was thinking or how she was feeling. Because Jasmine could not hear, she was not speaking. In the early intervention program, they recommended that I take sign language, so I enrolled at the South Suburban Recreational Association, SSRA. One of my younger sisters, Misty, who is 4 years younger than me, attended the class with me, and she was able to catch on to the signs much faster than I could. At the same time, Jasmine was being taught sign language, but ultimately, Jasmine made her own sign language to communicate to us what she needed. Even today, Jasmine will point to what she wants. She will pull you to what she needs. And you better get it taken care of because Jasmine is not one to wait for anything or anyone. Jasmine's father chose not to be in her life. He said, "I don't know how to care for a child with special needs." Newsflash, neither do I. Life became difficult in Chicago. It was rough. I did whatever it took, like any other mother would do. I figured it out. 1997. Once I completed my bachelor's degree, I struggled to care for Jasmine as she continued to experience developmental delays. A Caucasian woman at Blue Cap suggested that I put Jasmine in a residential facility. She said, "Jasmine will get care at the facility. She will grow." I presented the idea to a couple of people that were close to me. They both agreed that Black people don't put their loved ones in a home and then asked if I was crazy. I was confused and hurt all at the same time. But then I decided to trust my inner voice, same voice I heard the day I decided against terminating my pregnancy. God will take care of her. I knew He had His hand of protection on her. I struggled with this idea because I do not have the skills to care for Jasmine at home any longer. So I made the decision that was best for both Jasmine and me. The name of the facility is Phillip Rock in Glen Ellen, Illinois. When I dropped Jasmine off, I'll never forget the evening supervisor, Minister Wanda. She was the one who managed the program. At this time, Jasmine still wasn't walking. She was 5 years old. Wanda said, "Jasmine is going to be all right. We're going to take good care of her, Mom." I knew that I had to do this for Jasmine because I could not care for her in the way that she deserved. I had to do what was best for her. While all these thoughts were swarming in my mind, the guy I was dating at the time had to literally pick me up and carry me out. Because at that moment, I didn't want to leave her. I just couldn't. But somehow, I got the inner strength that rose in me to do what was best. This inner strength in me came from my mother. She is a gentle soul, but as I said earlier, she comes from a strong-willed woman, my maternal grandmother, Ruby Slaughter. 2006. I was instructed to enroll Jasmine in the Hope Center, located in Springfield, Illinois. Philip Rock advised that the Hope Center could care for her better, so I transferred her. As you know, I lived in the south suburbs of Chicago. It was rough because Jasmine's behavior increased during this time. She was more expressive. When you have a child with special needs, the number of resources that are available for mental health in general is limited. As an African American mother, I saw firsthand how resources were not as available as information is to other ethnic people. When I applied for Social Security disability for Jasmine, it took 9 months for us to get approved. Then months later, I was sent a redetermination letter that indicated that Jasmine was not eligible because I made too much money. I was trying to figure out who determines these metrics. The money I made covered rent, my car note, and for me to get back and forth to work, including whatever the state would not cover for Jasmine. Every expense was on me. I even applied for a Section 8 voucher and was never contacted. When you must take care of special needs children, there is a lack of available resources. Every time there is a cut in the budget at governmental agencies, that is a place that receives limited care. It is never advertised what is available. Minority parents that have special needs children oftentimes do not know what resources are available and oftentimes don't know what questions to ask. It crossed my mind what my mom said. Children don't ask to come here. I did what I had to do, and that was to make sure that Jasmine was fine. Everything I do is about the care that Jasmine will require once I am no longer on this earth. I also did not receive child support or any support from Jasmine's father. My mother continued to encourage me that Jasmine was going to be taken care of and that she would never want for anything. I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for the people that God placed in my life. I'm grateful for the strength that He has given me to persevere no matter what. Later, I will share with you my spiritual journey, which was built on a solid foundation. But like any other journey, has had its ups and downs. In the second part of my spiritual journey, while attending my second church home, St. James Ministries, my pastor's wife preached a sermon with the title of, "You Must Trust God Even When You Can't Trace Him." As a child, I was not good at art. I would get sketch paper and trace the lines of drawings that were already on another sheet of paper. I was good at science, but not art. I thought about this in comparison with not being able to trace God and finding that He can be traced by looking at what He has already done for Jasmine and me. This reminder built my faith even more because at first, I could not see it until she reminded me. Meanwhile, at the Hope Center, which was far from where I lived, driving there back and forth took 3 hours there and 3 hours back, which meant most of our visits were spent in the car. Because of the distance, I could not see her as much as I would have liked. Having a special needs child that could not talk scared me. I would always wonder if someone were harming her. Harm is not always visible, which is scary. FaceTime wasn't an option back then. 2008. My best friend Adrian, Paul, who is now my husband, and I went and moved Jasmine from the Hope Center in Springfield, Illinois. The facility had to double clients in one room. Because Jasmine doesn't like to have a roommate, she reacted to having someone else in the room with her. Jasmine loves her own personal space. She does not like to share a room with anybody. Paul and I were dating at the time, and he cared so much about what Jasmine was going through and how it affected me. Now, Paul reminds me regularly he should have been Jasmine's father, but after we reconnected, he took on the title of dad. She is my only biological child. I have 3 bonus children, Paul Jr., Raven, and Tiffany. Both blended families are a package deal. We cannot accept one without the other. All 3 love Jasmine as if she was their blood sister. They understand her special needs. Also, in 2008, Jasmine went to her 3rd residential facility, Little City Foundation in Palatine, Illinois. While Jasmine was there, she got to go to her prom. They had a prom every year. Life was great for her. She continued growing and developing into a young lady. This facility has all kinds of programs and activities in place that parents look forward to attending. One year, Janae, Jasmine's big little sister, who is a professional makeup artist, did Jasmine's makeup. When I first met Janae, who is 2 years younger than Jasmine, and her mother, Hosanna, at Chicago State University in 1996, she would push Jasmine in her stroller when they both were younger. Janae is my unofficial second oldest daughter. She was Jasmine's protector. Jasmine hated going to the store back then, but she needed a prom dress. Grandma Yolanda loved shopping for her. She went and bought 10 dresses every year from stores at Lincoln Mall, which was in Matson, Illinois, which is no longer in existence, a place where my grandmother, Miss Ruby, loved to frequent. We put our heads together to decide which one looked perfect for Jasmine. She really enjoyed getting dressed up, then experiencing fun at her prom. Little City Foundation made a great impression on Jasmine. Although there were experiences where Jasmine felt uncomfortable, this is to be expected at any facility. Every facility that she was a resident of assisted Jasmine in her development. Every stage of her development was critical to her well-being. I know some cared about her, especially at Philip Rock. She had to leave. There were staff who had her best interests at heart. Although there were 3 ladies who I knew loved Jasmine as if she was their child: Joyce, Janice, and Anissa, who I keep in touch with today. The point I'm making here is that they would braid Jasmine's hair, making sure she looked good, kept her clean, and made sure she felt great. You see, when you have an African American child, hair is a big thing. What I was not able to do for my daughter, I was able to do with my other children who are my bonus children. When you have a children, that does not have any disabilities, it still takes a lot of work assisting them in their development. It can be tough. I had the privilege of being extremely influential to my bonus children. I taught them how to drive, took them on college tours, and was able to experience seeing them off to their prom, and we have gone on vacations. 2013. Jasmine was nearing the age where she was no longer eligible to receive services at Little City Foundation because of her age. My mother, hubby Paul, paternal auntie Phyllis, and I went to visit several adult facilities. There are day program facilities, and then there are community integrated living arrangements, CILAs, which is usually the place where you live. We all went to visit one place after another. Some facilities had concrete floors where clients went during the day. At this point, Jasmine spent most of her time on the floor, and other times she spent in her rocking chair. She loves her rocking chair and rolling around on the floor. Both are her happy places. So any place with concrete floors was not suitable for her. And so we looked, and we looked, and we looked. In Jasmine's records, there was some information about behavioral problems, which made finding an adult facility that would accept her a challenge. On paper, she did appear to be a resident that would fit well into most facilities. It became exhausting. So I got to the point where I said, hubby, let's buy a house and open up our own community integrated living arrangement, CILA. I said this because we could get a CILA that Jasmine could live in and other people could too. For instance, a 4-bedroom house. All 3 of us, Auntie Phyllis, Paul, and I, went to Springfield, Illinois, to attend a class on the requirements to open a facility. There were, of course, financial obligations and other things needed to start and run a facility. One must be prepared to provide support 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and this means we would be 100% responsible for the entire operation. Additionally, I became very disturbed while attending the class. There were people there only wanting to know when they would be getting paid. Oh, that sent me through more emotional challenges. This was for my baby Jasmine. So we kept looking to find her somewhere suitable for her condition. I ultimately realized that while opening a Scylla sounded like a great idea, being responsible for others' loved ones was not a risk I was willing to assume. One day, we went to Seguin, a place that did not have concrete floors in their day program area. The house where Jasmine would be staying looked like a house that was made specially for her. I am Jasmine's voice, and if she never utters a word, as long as I live, I must be her voice that speaks for her. She has her way of communicating and expressing herself. I wish parents would understand the power they have and be the voice that their children need, because maybe the world would not be like it is today. We decided to go with Seguin. Jasmine has been there for 10 years now. They tried putting her in a room with someone else, but she didn't want a roommate. She has been living an amazing life, one that she is comfortable with. Believe it or not, Jasmine has been on a cruise. Let me tell you, Grandma Yolanda, Paul, and I were sitting on pins and needles, wondering how she was going to respond to a different surrounding. The cruise life, while it is my favorite, it did not agree with Jasmine. The buffet wasn't open when she wanted to eat, and Jasmine didn't like the fact that we had to wait to board the ship. It was this trip that we discovered how fast Jasmine could slip away as she broke away from Auntie Linda's tight hand grip and attempted to board the ship in a matter of seconds. Jasmine got on the plane and went to Disney World. Yes, she went to Magic Kingdom and all the different places in Disney World that you can enjoy. When she was younger, she loved to swim, floating on her back. To watch her float was to experience peace. One thing I was concerned about, and I am wondering, is what was Jasmine thinking? She seems at peace and knows how to express herself when she needs something. I was still concerned about what was on her mind. It seems like she does not have a clue about what's going on in the world. I know that she does not know that we were in a pandemic. She doesn't know that we have 4 different seasons. Now, I will tell you, the girl loves her some sun. So maybe, in some respect, she does know about the different seasons. God gave Jasmine to me because he knew that I could handle it, even if I did not always understand or know, because it was all new to me. God knew. He gave me the strength and the foundation that I needed to successfully navigate my growth journey. You too will have to find within yourself the strength deep down on the inside to look at situations and use them as stepping stones. My shed the weight moments. Number 1, you can't make an impact if you continue to lie down and don't take that first step. Number 2, trust your gut. If something keeps tugging at you internally, you owe it to yourself to investigate it further. Number 3, you must learn to advocate for the most important person, you. Number 4, just because someone doesn't look like you doesn't mean you should devalue their expertise and recommendations. Number 5, life does not sit still. Growth requires development in or to allow progression to occur. Number 6, your voice is your communication tool. Don't take it for granted. Some people aren't born with theirs. Open your Grow With Me journal and follow the prompts provided.